went to the dark side. We wanted to explore a different kind of game, storytelling and such things, and Yearwalk turned out to be a very good project for us. It started out as a movie script written by an old friend of Simon's, and he was trying to get funding to shoot this movie, but he didn't. So then Simon proposed to him that maybe we should try to make this into a game. And it's about old tradition in south of Sweden in the early 19th century, about sitting in a dark room at New Year's Eve and go out in the middle of the night through the woods up to the church and go around the church, meet a creature there, and if you survive you see the future, what happens next year. And that's the basic story. Very dark story as well. And this is some early concepts of Yearwalk. We didn't know if it was to be in 3D, like a Zelda view, or 2D, but it turned out to be 2D in the end. So. There's some early sketches of the creatures in the game, book cars, the church. We did a map of Yearwalk there, so we can, for ourselves, so we can get an overview of every room in the game and where everything were placed. Early logo tests and stuff. You can see the head of the goat there as well. And for Yearwalk, we made a road trip. We rented a car and got out in the south of Sweden with no really destination, just driving around to all these strange small villages and forests and cemeteries. We got very strange looks from people when we photographed on the cemetery, but yeah, it was a great inspiration, and we will definitely do this again if possible. And this is Yearwalk, and we ended up a very ambitious project. We wanted to mix fact and fiction, so we ended up making a game and a companion app, sort of a mini encyclopedia where you can read up about all the things in the game, and that really extended the experience. And there's some hidden stuff in there as well that you unlock. And there's some of the creatures that you encounter in the game. This lady in the woods that you would follow her around, and here's a doll that you... All these small puzzles all over the world. And this is the book cars. I think it's the most famous screenshot of Yearwalk is this book cars. And we wanted to make every puzzle in Yearwalk unique, interaction-wise, so that it would feel fresh every time and be a new struggle to figure out what interaction to use in the different puzzle. And the storytelling in Yearwalk is linear, completely linear. Small episodes of the actual story, and you end up on the cemetery, and there's the church that I told you about, and you spin this around. I don't want to spoil the whole game. So. This is kind of cool. We didn't have an in-game editor in Yawok in the same sense as Beatsnip Bandit or Bumpy Road, but we ended up making Maya the editor for the game, so Simon could build all these rooms in Maya, and we did set up a pipeline so we can basically use prefix-based import and everything would work. And you can see those cut-out meshes, so we could reduce alpha rendering and stuff, and that's pretty important on mobile devices. But there's a lot of layers in Yawok, as you can see. So we still struggle with performance. And there's the lady in the woods. And Simon is a really good animator, so it's animated in Maya as well. And here's a side view of the different rooms. When you do a transition into another room, there's actually a lot of things going on that the first prototype of Yawok was just this transition between two rooms to get it to work and figure out what each layer was supposed to do to make it feel right. We wanted a 3D feeling, although it was 2D. And there's all kinds of, I think there's one of the windmill as well. So you can see the trees are scaling and repositioning, and here's the windmill. And then when it pops into place, it actually becomes the active room. That's where it pops. And here's the nice part of being able to combine 2D and 3D. So we could have a little bit of 3D in there as well. So this is the doll, one of the puzzles in the game. And you can see this, the way the doll moves, it's really nicely animated. And we have the church as well. That's in 3D. And the background tiles in Yawok are wrapping, so it doesn't matter where you walk around in the world, it will always, it's designed to wrap around, although you won't notice it. Editor's choice on the iPad as well. We got the feature for that. And we were also nominated in the Excellence of Visual Arts in the IGF. But I think it was Route Zero that won that. So, what a finalist. It's a pretty big thing just to be nominated. Yawok. 10 months. It was a bit larger project than we wanted, but 10 months it ended up with, and we aimed both for a game and an app, so 10 months, it's not that much if you consider that, but what we brought into the next project was weekly scheduled test beds, and that sounds really simple to use that, but we actually, although we had the experience, although the game development experience, we actually forgot to test the game extensively in the end of the project, so we ended up with all these weird bugs and stuff, so we actually added this into the next project to have weekly scheduled test passes. We don't do any outsourced QA or something. We do everything ourselves. So. And do not postpone polish, because then you won't edit. And that's mainly because you're really tired in the end of the project. So do the polish when you are not so tired. Avoid crunch if possible. And that's the last 2 months of year work was really crazy. I struggled with these bugs that I mentioned, and also trying to get the last content in there and doing the app and all stuff. Simon was basically done 2 months before we finished the project, but it was pretty much up to me to finish the last thing. So the last 2 months I worked 14, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we actually got pretty tired of each other and fighting a lot, so avoid crunch. That's definitely a post-mortem bullet point. Next project, Device 6. This was actually released last month, 17th of October. And the story behind this is one sentence really. What if the text could be your map? That's where it started off. And it's a story about Anna that wakes up on a remote island, not aware of how she got there or anything. It's an old castle, and you have to figure it out on yourself. We wanted to play with the conventions of what a game could be, or how you can tell a story really. So this is the first concepts of Device 6. Pretty simple. We had a lot of graphics, even covering the text and stuff. And we had a text that made out this door that you can see. And we had an idea of this staircase that you should walk towards, and the words would scale up to create that illusion of a staircase. And as you can see, there was no windows that was added to the final game. And Simon came in one day and had done this rendering in Maya, and we thought we could. It's a bit of year work in there with the parallax and layers and stuff, but it would really add to the story, not being just text. So we can tell a story through the windows as well. So you get kind of a sense of what the environment looked like. And we could also add puzzles in there. So this is Device 6. And I won't spoil so much of Device 6. You have to try it yourself. I won't ruin the experience. It's divided into chapters as a book. And you basically read a story, and the text makes you, the layout of the text makes you rotate your device around. And there's all these, we call them visions, that we could add all this 2D stuff. And also we could make puzzle interaction being focused to these visions, so it was really good decision. And the puzzles actually you use both the text and audio cues to solve each puzzle. And this is a bit of a spoiler, but when you unlock a chapter, every chapter is separate puzzle experience, so you can. There's always a final puzzle in each chapter that you unlock, and you end up with these tests with very weird questions, but I won't tell you about what the tests means. But and an editor again, and this time it was in-game, so we can edit the text layout, and we want this column-based alignment, as you can see here. And with all the proofreading and changes of text, we had to make it simple to update the text. And we have these arrows that guide you and give you a hint when you can move around and move in a different direction. And this is the actual column corridors that will define the movement in the game. Featured by Apple. Very fortunate to be featured by Apple every time, but I guess they like our games. So we were editor's choice on iPad. And we actually squeezed in between Star Wars Angry Birds, of course, #1, and Minecraft. So we were top 2 of all the things that were sold on the iPad in the US, and that's pretty cool. And the Metacritic score is insane. We got so many nice reviews of Device 6. And they keep on coming, and we have a huge amount of emails in the inbox, and all these great fans out there who love the game. Six months it took us to make Device 6. It was the smoothest project yet to make, and we were friends all the time. Text rendering is tricky. There was a bug in Unity that they resolved later on, but that made the spacing between the letters wrong, so it looked really weird. And for a text game, you need the text to be perfect. So we ended up with a custom solution, importing a bitmap texture font pre-rendered. And the alignment itself is tricky, just to use this column-based alignment. Proofreading, very time-consuming. Again, we relied on friends and mostly living in Great Britain to proofread our game. And if you proofread if you read out Device 6 out loud, it takes 3 hours. So a few words of what's been the keywords for our development. Gut feeling. We usually say gut feeling, that you should trust yourself and make something unique with your game. Don't try to rip off any proven successes or stuff. Try to make something new. Try to challenge what's out there. Shortcuts. Everyone doesn't have to have their own technology. You can use Unity or any other engine. Take that shortcut to reduce development time and let other guys to worry about the platform-specific issues and stuff. And survive. We have never done freemium games. It's a policy of ours to always, fans should know they pay for a game once, and then we want to price drops and stuff, it's always the same price. We keep that policy, and we kind of at a premium price point, but it works really well when you build up that trust between your fans and yourself. And I figure you would ask me this question, so I added these sales in there. And for a two-man company, this we are really happy with these figures. I cannot have another slide. Since I'm all the way from Sweden, I brought some stuff with me: T-shirts, pins, tattoos, yearbook tattoos. Also have a yearbook soundtrack, a few of those, so you have to grab me later to take part of that. Yeah, and that's our new office. Quite much bigger than the first one. Thanks, that's my time.